This is ELMSLN Rethinking System Design. And so this is a little, if you don't know what ELMSLN is, you can go to elmsln.org, or I'm at BTOPro on Twitter. I never shut up about this crap because this is my life. It stands for E-Learning Management System Learning Network, which means learning's in there twice because we care about it doubly, okay? So you can learn more about the project at github.com/elmsln/elmsln or elmsln.org. We are more than just me, but I'm the only one here right now, so my picture gets up there. My name's Brian Olendijk. I'm BTO Pro on Drupal.org. Been in the Drupal community for over a decade now. God, I'm old. And I'm a instructional design technologist, if you will, right? So I build tools for learning designers and for faculty members so that they can teach their courses better. It's the hope. Better connection with students, better technology. Get the gist. So what is ELMSLN? Because there's this thing called ELMS from a while ago. Maybe you've heard of it. It's all LMS type of a thing. ELMSLN is not that. This is basically a series of Drupal sites that are all networked together to form one cohesive experience. So Outlandish Josh in the keynote mentioned that the future of all systems is going forward, and it's not page-based delivery as the centric thing, right? It's whatever delivery. So ELMSLN is all the systems are, it's basically a mesh network of REST communications, right? So if I've got one learning tool that is focused on students submitting images and having a conversation around media, that can be a very lightweight Drupal distribution relative to another Drupal distribution that's focused entirely on content. Right? So now I'm in my content and I'm walking through the content and we go, oh, hey, students have to submit something. Let's ask the studio system if they've submitted it, right? That's a REST call. And now we've got two very separate distributions that can each serve their own purpose, but we can stitch the experience back together for the students. What this lets me do is innovate in one area really fast without having to go, okay, well, what's the upgrade path for our insanely bloated 400 module system? We don't want to build Open Atrium again. So the idea, basically, we get a new idea. This equates to a new distribution. We put it at a new subdomain, and this gives us a new tool that faculty can use. So it's a suite of tools approach to LMS design, if you will. An LMS, if you're not familiar, is one huge bucket that you throw everything in and you go, have fun. So who's coming on this journey with us? There's a bunch of colleges at Penn State. We recently are going to add Smeal College of Business in via email that I got just the other day. There's some smaller deployments at University of Wisconsin in their law school and Center for Patient Partnerships, which is a group out of the law school. We've also got a training company in the UK that's been contributing efforts and thought power. And I'm hoping, it's really dark over there. I've been talking to UGA about them starting to try and play with it too for some projects. So it is getting some traction. We have some other developers on the project. As I mentioned, there's 2 full-time people. I have some students at my disposal. We have some community members, and we have a part-time faculty member on the project. Well, full-time faculty, but part-time does. So what's the impact on Drupal? Because ELMS is built on Drupal. So ELMS is kind of lots and lots of modules out there. I've got 20, 30, 40 modules that are used primarily by other systems. So these solutions have been downloaded almost 17,000, or sorry, been installed almost 17,000 times. We're closing in on the million mark. Now, this is not ELMS proper. This is the things that have been contributed as part of ELMS, right? So death by 1,000 pinpricks type of approach. So Outline Designer is a project that we released. It's basically a drag and drop book outline. Very important to what we do, but that has implications for any Drupal site. It's used on thousands, I think about 1,000 Drupal sites. Drush Recipes, an automation spec that we wrote as part of this project, has been downloaded like 30,000 times or something, right? So these are things that the larger Drupal community can jump in and help build without needing to care about this system. And that's actually part of the design we're going for. Has anyone heard of H5P? Shut up, I talked to you for a while about it, right? So if you haven't heard of H5P, it's going to be a really big deal for the learning management industry, in my opinion. It's an open source learning content production tool, and it's HTML5, it kicks out these neat little files, you can read about it, but they've got plugs into Drupal, so we're tapping onto this community. They improve their product, it improves ours, kind of the get off the island, right? But we're doing it in other ways. And so the H is for something called Harmony. So you can go to getharmony.io. It's a discussion board system built on Drupal, right? So it has a thing called Harmony Core. We build on top of Harmony Core for our Discuss distribution, and now we're leveraging them. Ethos CE has a lot of investment like the quiz module and other learning management stuff. They've built an LMS on Drupal. And then we also get contributions. I'm not saying we get them from Phase 2 and Acquia, but we have had patches accepted to various projects from people from these companies, right? So it's the idea of just leveraging the entire Drupal ecosystem. So why another solution in this space, in the LMS space? Well, the space has a lot of problems. So instructional designers have little influence over the technical direction of their organization. A lot of times people go out to vendor land, and vendor land says, here's what you should use, as opposed to going and talking to faculty and actually learning that what I really need is I need like a pencil, right? Instead, I come back with a pen type of a thing. Well, I can't erase a pen, right? Well, I brought you a solution, right? We're not talking about the actual root of the problem or even listening to it. So regardless of solution, satisfaction ratings are low for LMSs. LMS technologies live out here somewhere magical, and we all come to them as a single point. And does anything in society work that way anymore? Not really. Huge amounts of time are being invested in trying to identify these solutions, but I'm trying to pick a solution that meets the needs of, oh, I don't know, a 120,000 person organization, maybe like the one I work for. So they spent 2 years deciding they didn't know what they wanted. And then this is why we've been on the system since before I started going to school there in 2002. So this system has been in use for 15 years. It was just recently announced it will be replaced with something else. And so we have a 2-year phase out. Does anyone use the same product for 17 years? Same platform? Really sounds like a great idea. So Angel, as it's called, is not used by anyone anymore. We're the last ones in the universe. Looks like this. It's awesome. The thing that sucks, though, is that basically everything looks like this in this space. Desire to Learn, Blackboard, Canvas. Canvas is the best of the worst, if you will, right? It's still not great, and we're actually trying to go for great as opposed to go for less mediocre. The biggest deal to me, though, is if you notice in this slide, there's a PDA icon. Does anyone know what a PDA is still? Because millennials sure as hell don't know what a PDA icon is, but they still see this. But it's been removed in newer systems, so that's great. So why are others failing? I don't know. Because education is not one big bucket that you throw everyone in expecting different results, except unfortunately we still build things this way. We build our instruction out this way. So we introduce LMSosaurus, as we have here, and behold the one true tool that all people will love ever, except that doesn't actually happen. And it's got 1 billion features in it, right? Would you ever build a system, a website for a client, whatever, that has this much functionality in one place and expect them to be happy with all of it? They might be happy with the way you do collaborative tools. They might be happy with your syllabus. They might be happy with the way you do email. Oh my God, use a freaking email client. So we've got a single source of functionality, which is a single source of success and often leads to a single source of failure. And so what do faculty do when faced with, here's the one thing, and you all will use it and you'll love it, I'm sure you will, is they fragment. And this is looked down upon by people in my position, generally speaking, is they go off and they do their own thing somewhere else, right? This happens right now. This kind of is forming a network, if you will, right? So when you send your students to YouTube to watch videos, to do a lecture, and then they go to Yammer, which is a internal social network type of a tool to talk about it, and then when they blog about it on WordPress.com, and then they get their grades from the course in your traditional crappy LMS, that basically have a network. It's just really garbled and disjointed, right? Just threw this in right before. Just started tweeting with this guy. His name's Paul Hibbets. He's a faculty member in British Columbia. He's got this cool concept of flipping the LMS, as he terms it, where basically the problem is that you're putting the LMS at the front and you're saying, hey, everyone go here. Well, then, yeah, they hate it. So what you do as a faculty member is you put yourself in control. You funnel your students to a content system that's basically routing them out to the other tools that they need. And so if the tool that they need and the tool you've selected is the gradebook provided by your university in an LMS, then point them to there, but route them through a new center point, basically. So what sucks about the normal way that we've just described as people do, there's lots of PII concerns, personal identifiable information, concerns about multiple logins and user experience, and service X goes down and we don't know about it, so students get pissed at group Y. Data retention, security policies are unknown, and accessibility. Does anyone here care about accessibility? Okay, well, every hand should have been up there, but I'm not going to say the names of the people who didn't. Well, accessibility is a biggie in this space, especially you can't point someone to a source that's inaccessible. You just can't. Not shouldn't, can't. I'm talking legally, morally, ethically, whatever you want to say. So innovative ideas will still happen. They'll just be implemented unsustainably, right? So we need to design learning technology in a way that it's equipped for change. Something that's much more of a Legos and stacking it together. And what system has that type of methodology constantly applied to it? Radcliffe is laughing because I use the Legos thing here. So philosophy principle number 2 of the project. We don't know what innovation we have to build, just that we have to. It's an important point. I don't know. I don't have a silver bullet. I'm saying this is a methodology that we are deploying out in, and then we build solutions as needed. So this is kind of a structure, think of ELMSLN as this weird circly pie chart thing that I still don't know why I include. We're talking Drupal as more of a framework we're using, right? So we build on top of Drupal. We deploy this on a server. We're not talking about like, oh, go to Pantheon and click the button and there's the one thing, right? So you're going to need an actual server to do this. You can run it in Vagrant locally. You do Vagrant up from the project repo. So philosophy principle number 3, the future is distributed, ever-changing, and hyper-connected. And so the way we get into this is web services. I mentioned everything is effectively a RESTful web service. And so if you look at, this is our LMS experience, right? Is we have a system that helps kind of stitch together the experience. It's online dot whatever. But let's say we want to push them out to course content, that they're over here. We deliver our media assets from here. We do analytics analysis from there. We have, maybe they're participating in some studio assignments there, engaging with material from Interact, and maybe they're blogging on our blogging platform. But Science 101 doesn't care about blogs, gang. They don't care about our interactive stuff. They don't care about Studio. Although, actually, we're finding they do care about Studio. It's kind of interesting. So that we only use these systems. But Art 101, maybe it uses these systems, right? So we're kind of picking and choosing which systems we want to engage with. And so each course is effectively a network of systems that are talking to each other. So what's the rethinking system design? We're talking, you have a really complex project for a client. You build it out as lots of interconnected pieces that work together and serve their purpose. You don't build one insanely large bucket of a solution. Even if that's as simple as a news site and a normal front-facing site, right? Maybe these are 2 separate sites you're talking about and you're using RESTful web services to get the news to the main site that needs to get there. So what we do is we go to our CIS, as our center of the universe, if you will, and CIS can create Drupal sites. Is anyone familiar with Ager? No, 1 person, cool, 2, okay. So I'm not gonna say this is Ager, right? Ager has its own ecosystem, is a different thing, but that idea, right, where you go to a site and you say, I want to build a site, and you fill out a form, and magic happens on the back end thanks to Drush, and a site comes out the other side. We do that, but our magic is checkboxes, basically. So what about user experience? Because I'm talking about lots of different domains, lots of websites effectively. So what we do is we get data from some other source that suggests this is a student, they're enrolled in XYZ. And we pass that data around via RESTful web services. So effectively, I have a user account on 5 or 6 different Drupal sites, we'll say. But then I use single sign-on technology. Has anyone logged into groups.drupal.org and drupal.org? Because you log into them at the exact same time. Are you confused when you go from one to the other? Yeah, just shut up, Radcliffe. So this isn't a new idea, right? Organizations are already doing this all the time. The expectation when I go to Google is not that youtube.com is the exact same code base and platform as the rest of the Google ecosystem, yet somehow magically I'm logged in and I know that I'm going to be logged in because it's still part of Google. I use Microsoft products, I'm sorry to say, but I really like the way that they're doing this as well, right? Where they've got these kind of dedicated functions. And now when I go to Office Online, there isn't a, oh, well, I'll have to log into Office Online. And how will Office Online work? They have a very unified branding bar, if you will, that suggests where I am at any time, outlook.com, the things I can do, and the fact that it's me over there. Right? So we can do the same type of a thing. So this is our ecosystem, and we've got a bar that flies out and shows you the different parts of your network that you can go to. And then based on saying, hey, this course uses these different components, this is what you get. The user experience becomes very familiar as you transition between these systems because they're using the same type of user experience. So this is our content system in a course, but I might then go to my private journal, which this is a different Drupal site that functions in a lot of the same way because it's built on a same base distribution. I might go to our discussion board system and create a posting. And then we might go to, what the hell system is that? Oh, this is a compliance system. It's an internal one, right? So we have the same user experience for internal users producing the system as well as external students, what have you. Our media system, right? So that we're creating media. Hey, what do I click? Well, I need to know how to use the ad buttons. Anyone been noticing Google has this really obnoxious plus sign circle that's red that sits like kind of obnoxiously above the content? Well, you know where it is. You find it every time. And now I know how to use every Google appliance effectively is what they're iterating towards. They haven't gotten there fully, and we definitely haven't gotten there fully, but that's where things are headed. So another philosophy principle, I didn't really notice this until we started building it, is that we're course-centric and not logistics-centric. And what does that mean? So all of our addressing becomes something like this, like tool.department.edu/course name and then /syllabus. I could go to that for effectively every course, and I will always be delivered the syllabus. Does anyone know why that's important? There's a lot of courses out there and a lot of faculty, right? And every semester, when you're running, I don't know how many courses, we have 10,000 or something. Hey, where's the syllabus? Oh, it's at cms.pcu.edu/files/abc123xyz, blah, blah, blah. Right? I want to create a link to that. Copy and paste. Okay, well, that link is not going to be valid next semester. That link is not going to be valid for instructor A or instructor B. So, as I have this, stay with me. Links don't change, patterns remain the same, and what we like about patterns is patterns can be automated. And so we can effectively start to program the course so that once it's set in motion, it should just be plugging in, hey, here's the students, right? Why is there setup? Anyone that's worked within academia, this is why I hate the false argument that you're buying a product from vendor X and then you don't have to hire on-site resources. That's funny. We've got hundreds of instructional designers. What are they doing? Populating this system that they have no control over, okay? We bought into this thing and now we manage less of it. Well, we're still paying a lot of people to be part of that ecosystem. So what we can start to get into, because we're not logistics-centric, is, so this might be the content that's displayed to current students. We've got this cool H5P interaction here. And then it's not logistics-centric, same content dynamically rewritten and go, oh, this is someone that can't utilize H5P. Right? Maybe maybe the H5P, it's hard to tell on this little slide, but that's coming from YouTube. Well, maybe instead of coming from YouTube, we need to send it from an internal source. Maybe this video is going out to China that aggressively blocks YouTube, okay? So we flag a student and say, this student can't get our normal media. Maybe they're blind, right? So then we send the same content out, noticing who they are, and contextually rewriting it for their needs. Maybe they're a past student, they're no longer with us. Well, we're not going to block their access to the content. They legally can get to the content. What they can't legally get to is if that video is a clip from some film, something that is copyrighted material that we have legal authorization to send them during the time at which they're actually in the course, yada, 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 legalese. Well, we can still send them the same experience when they come back there and go, oh, what was that I did in that course? And be doing it in a legally compliant way. What this also lets us do is we can start to dig into other aspects of tokenization. And so this slide means nothing, but this one hopefully does. So here's a calendar. And this calendar is actually just a table that's been created in the content. As we start to tokenize different aspects of it. So the student experience of student A when they go to node 35, as Josh said, no one uses node 35 type of lingo, but I do. So if they go to node 35 and it has this table, and the table is actually a calendar of dates that are specific to the faculty member in question, and it's literally the only thing that changes semester to semester. I now have a programmable element right? So now we've got tokenization there. What we can also do is, you see I've already got a token for the LMS name, because we're going to change the LMS at some point. So LMS transition, it's a major system, everything connects to it. Our, oh crap, go through and fix the names everywhere will literally be one command. So because of this type of an approach and daisy chaining this stuff around, for example, we have our media system that's separate from the rest of our content systems. And we have a dedicated media distribution. Anyone that asks me, do you use a media module? No. No, I do not use a media module. No, I do not use any dedicated series of media projects. I have a whole damn distribution for it because it's a complex, wicked problem. And that's why it sucks in Drupal. So what we do is we have that off-sited, and it is its own dedicated thing. It took 1 hour several years ago to upgrade from a Flash-based player delivery method to an HTML5-based player delivery method. Every other group on campus is still trying to figure that out. We did it in 1 hour because we have it all by reference. We go, oh shoot, this is the more accessible player, or this is the more accessible way of doing this. This is the more standard compliant way of doing this. This is the more innovative way of doing this. And because it's all asking the media system, hey, how should I render myself? Well, now the hey, how should I render myself with its template files, modify the template file, propagates everywhere else, and we're good to go. So some other examples, because this is a very malleable platform. This is actually what it looks like at Wisconsin. It doesn't look anything like what I just showed you. All right? So they have their own theme. I don't particularly care for it, but this is what they wanted to go with instead. And so they're more so leveraging the automation aspect. This is one of our older courses because we, kind of been pioneering this. So this was our hideous way of presenting courses before. But it's a Beatles course. See, we've got our navigation on the left. Normal, terrible tabs. This is what we're working towards, and this is what our newer courses have. Right? So we've got our happy snowflake, and it's actually the color differential is a little goofy on this monitor, but these are two separate bars, so students don't see this. Another aspect faculty have really seemed to like is that we've got this very thin bar that's basically the only thing that's visually different between what the end user student sees and what anyone else sees. We also have access to Drupal, but we hide it away pretty much all the time, right? So I can always get back to it, but the idea is that this new user experience can do everything on top of Drupal. This is another one of our courses using this, and you'll see we've got kind of this breadcrumb trail that we can click through and go to these sites. I like to do stuff this way in case the internet's not working. And then we've also got these specialized tokens. So this is a token that figures out by web service querying our studio system if you've submitted this assignment. So if you've submitted this assignment, that'll render green, and then you click and it'll take you to it. So now we've got you going through just a normal pacing of material. Hey, you're gonna learn about a concept, you're gonna watch a video, you're gonna actually do it, but I haven't gone anywhere else. In fact, if I click that, I get a pop-up and it makes me fill it out inline, hit save, goes away, and now this reloads a page and turns green. What I've actually done is I've submitted it to our studio system. I can go to the studio system, so contextually I can be working through the flow of material, but a lot of times, if you're in an online course, you come to a prompting, right? A lot of our sessions via analytics are 20 minutes or less. So I'm gonna come through flow of instruction and I'm gonna go, oh shoot, I have to do something. And I'm leaving. I'm not staying there, I'm not hanging out in your site for an hour while I go and do it, or 2 days while I go do it. This is another tool we built. It's our editorial distribution, and so it's the blog, if you will. But this one has a countdown timer. Has anyone seen the movie Lost? Or sorry, not movie, the show that's really obnoxious called Lost? Sorry, that's what I meant to say. That has no real ending. What the hell was that about? So does anyone know there's the button that you have to push as the timer's going down? And this is actually a Reddit social experiment as well. What happens when it hits 0? Nothing. Right? But it freaks you out. Well, that's what we did as well. This is built to emulate in the classroom. Faculty members at the front of the class and says, hey gang, I don't want you to think, I want you to write for 10 minutes about your childhood. Go. And pencils, you got 10 minutes and go, clock's going down, and I just kind of wander around. Okay gang, just keep writing, nope, no erasing, just keep writing, and this keeps ticking down, right? And there's pressure. There's social pressure to be doing whatever it is and not thinking and not going like, oh crap, well that's not what I meant. If it hits 0, this doesn't do anything. They could sit there for an hour, but they're not going to because they don't know that. right? We can build these kind of weird pedagogical situations. Does anyone know the LMS that allows for that? Kind of goofy? No? No? Okay, exactly. iCore is another system that is our interactive content object repository. So it sounds like a robot, of course, but it lets us build out timelines. Among other things, we can upload kind of Captivate-ish files. If anyone's familiar with Captivate, we upload a zip file, it unpacks it, and then we can embed that HTML interaction somewhere else. We use a lot of iframes in this system. Fun property with iframes, if you say that the content's background is transparent, every browser in the universe will make it render as if it's laid onto that website. This is a very important principle of the internet. You can also drill down 3 layers deep into any iframe. Every browser allows it. It sounds really stupid, but these are things pioneered by Google and Microsoft, and that's why your single sign-on works. Because as you get to a site, it does this stupid drill down thing and then actually dynamically passes tokens around. Discuss, as I mentioned, just a basic discussion board system, but it's built on the Harmony Core Harmony project, and it's very cool. Harmony's built, I believe, to help the UK Health Services with like a cancer treatment, like social network type of a thing. I don't know a ton about it, but you can learn more about it at getharmony.io. We've also got our studio tool, as I mentioned. So students submitting media, critiquing, having a conversation around it. Very different from content, very different from what most LMS experiences allow. We won an award for this concept in, geez, 5 years ago. Who cares now? Media system. So we've got asset management. We won another award from this group for the same type of a thing. Just basically we have short codes, you copy and paste, throw them somewhere else, interprets what it should be, and delivers it there. We've also got automated 3-play media integration. Does anyone know what 3-play media is? So along with accessibility, there's captioning, right? And captioning video, right? So I've got a lecture. It's an hour long. I hope not. My God, it should be like 7 minutes because students pass out by then. But I've got to caption that. If I've got deaf students in my audience, right? They need to be able to experience that legally as well as ethically. And so what 3-play media does is you send them a file and they will auto-transcribe it and send you back the SRT or whatever. I forget what the formats are, but basically it's a format that then you can lay into video and it'll play the captions at the right time. What our system does is say, well, crap, we've got thousands of videos and it's 2 weeks before a semester and we just got this request that someone is taking this course, we need to close caption everything. We basically go to a page, click the checkbox and hit send to 3-play media. It goes out the door. 3 days later, we keep checking their API, comes back and says, here's what the bill was, puts the caption files all in place. Because our media is being delivered from somewhere other than the content in question, every place that that video shows up is now meeting the accessibility guidelines. So this is why by-reference relationships are really important. We also believe that content editors should not have to worry about accessibility. I don't know why you still have to. Oh wait, it's the WYSIWYG editor. The WYSIWYG editor is a big piece of crap that we're throwing stuff into and hoping it looks the right way. So we're actually working on a project we call Hacks, in which we're creating these drag and drop interfaces where you won't use HTML anymore. So the inline editing thing we showed with Drupal 8, we want to skip ahead of that, right? What's so important about Wix.com and these other website tonight platforms is that you can just drag and drop and create content and not have to care about what actually powers the web. Well, we need to get there as well. So if you're not a developer, how can you help? You can apply for grants. Wisconsin did. That got us involved with them. You can pitch to vendors. That's what Buttercups did. A vendor called Orange Bus helped implement for them. Read our white paper and pass it on. We've got a few white papers on there. Contribute to ongoing pedagogical discussions. We've got a really unique issue queue, in my opinion, because we've got instructional designers and technologists and faculty members and students, actually, because we have some student developers, all having conversations and reporting issues and then saying, hey, we need X, Y, Z, and then we add functionality the way it should be, in my opinion. And the number 5 thing you can do is demand innovation. So I'm kind of a social radical in this way. Like, I work here to enact this change. I want these things to go forward. I don't care if it's ELMS Learning Network. I care that people actually are able to learn better, because I don't know if you know, dissatisfaction with higher education is really high. And the money is constantly going down, and that's going to cause a problem. So we need some way of dealing with that. Philosophy principle number 5, one learner at a time, one course at a time, in dribs and drabs, we will make a better world. And by we, I mean there are a lot more people than just the guy that constantly goes around to these Drupal camps and presents stuff, right? So this is lots of people from the team that I work with, and lots of people, Michael Potter's down here at the bottom, he works at Eberly, but there's other groups as well. Smeal is going to be contributing a developer soon, so we're very excited about that. And with that, I'm going to actually go into the system and toy around with it a bit. Before that, though, does anybody have any questions? I know it's really easy. Yeah. I don't want you, I talk to you all the time. Yeah.
I'm looking at your problem. I know nothing about education. I just do Drupal. And why aren't we doing just updated modules and putting a collective bag like the services YAML in that kind of theory situation and updating that way? Wouldn't it be much easier and less cumbersome
To
put
services.
the services in the services YAML file in 8?
Well, this isn't on Drupal 8, for one.
Okay, well, it's just a theory that probably you would have better directs and you would be able to update everything easier. I agree that the educational side has a problem. My daughter's at college for nursing. She can't get her stuff on Chromebook. She's got to come over to my Linux and download it. That's crap. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's not that. I'm just trying to figure an answer.
So part of the systems all being different is that we want to iteratively upgrade. So instead of having one, basically I started in Drupal 6 and then I said, oh, I'm going to start in this Drupal 7 thing. I went, oh, well, I use, 200 modules or something. Sweet, there's 100 blocking paths to this solution, right? So what I want to do is say, okay, well, some of the distributions in here are actually really small, like 70 or so modules, right? And core is getting slightly bigger, right? So some of those are going to be a drop in a new front end that's Zurb Foundation, because we like to build on different ecosystems as well. So if Zurb Foundation works for D8, and which it's being developed, and then D8 has its service container stuff, and REST is under the hood. It's also why we built on top of REST-WS, because REST-WS is kind of the way D8 is being mirrored as far as exposing entities to the outside world in a similar pattern, that then we can start to take these different tools in the network and go, oh, well, this one's primed for Drupal 8 upgrade, and it's not going to care about the rest of them because there's just REST. I don't care. So yes, I'm thinking there's probably 3 or 4 months of just mucking with all the performance and REST aspects that I'm really excited about for D8. But I'm also aware that D8 has a really steep learning curve, not just for me, but for anyone that's been used. Yeah, so I like to wait a bit.
Months. I said, give us a chance to get a real hardcore D8 out and wait for the modules to catch up and then come talk.
Can you, when you're talking about, if you want to just answer this now, look or show or tell us about the analytics component and what exactly that's comprised of, and how extensible analytics and what that is for the coursework.
So analytics from which perspective? Just tracking people or like completion?
Completion.
So there's the question was probably say it in here. The question was, what do we have as far as analytics and how have we built that out? So there's kind of 2 sides to analytics in my mind. There's some student X has a problem and we need to see what browser they're using and that kind of lame crap. Well, you shrug, but it is really important when you have to have a core, like we are 5 people or so helping several thousand go through curriculum. So these things become very important to reduce call volume side of things. So we use PWIC for that side of things. PWIC is a standalone PHP. It's kind of like Google Analytics, but it's an open source version, if you will. You host it yourself. And then we're starting to get into using Learning Locker as our LRS, which is a learning record store. And so H5P kicks off, they're called, God, this is getting into acronym hell here. H5P, which is the interactive video and things, is able to kick off what are called XAPI, Tin Can Experience API statements. It's basically it's kind of like a 4 or 5 part message that's just like, who are you? What'd you do? So it might be like, Bill watched the video at this address to completion, kind of a thing, and did it at this time, right? If you want to think of it as that simple. So it emits those statements. Our LRS then just literally sits there and stores them. Learning Locker is a PHP open source project that just, if you think of it, just sitting there catching all these statements that come across. And then the UK group has actually developed into the CIS, although I'll probably I might move that code somewhere else. Students can come and say like, what's my progress, type of a thing. And it'll evaluate and say, well, you're going to look for these 10 XAPI statements, and then it'll ask Learning Locker, hey, have they completed these? Come back, and when they've completed the 10, it'll go, oh, cool, here's a badge. And then when you get enough badges, here's a certificate that you print so that because they're a medical training company. So XAPI plus, the Google Analytics side, basically. I really like XAPI. We haven't implemented it yet, I'll be perfectly honest, but it is in the roadmap to do. And we have someone that has done it and recorded videos. It's on the blog section of ELMSLN.org. Yeah?
And then a follow-up would be suggestion for innovation to then report back to the instructor for suggestive or differentiated instruction. And working on something. Or you can take the results and create assignments for students who are below or on or what level.
The logistics second part as well is we're hoping I say, because we've talked about doing this, we just haven't had someone sit down and invest. You need faculty that invest enough time in that, right? Is that we can actually deliver 2 different sections. So a student hits our homepage and is delivered a different content outline and a different starting point and a different experience than student B. So we can have multiple content outlines within the same course effectively using different systems. So student A might be coming through and student B going through, and they think they're taking the same course as one another, but they're actually taking we looked at the analytics and we made these changes. Let's see if they actually produce better results without going through tons and tons of system dev to accomplish something like that. So, does anyone else walk through stuff?
How do you keep track of the configuration of the mesh?
The what now?
You mentioned that this was a mesh network. How do you keep track of how that's configured? Like, for example, a particular course could have 5 different systems. What assigns that course to those 5 systems?
So start to get to the system then. So that's the repo. There's lots of performance stuff here as well. I am going to answer your question. I just want to show the repo. This does not look like Drupal core, right? Drupal is buried way down in this thing called DSLM, which does a whole ton of sim linking. It's actually, we use you're creating a course and it's basically a cluster of multi-sites. So we can push those multi-sites to different locations, is the idea. All the calls are going out via RESTful web services. So even though in a lot of our deployments they're all in one place, it's still not assuming it's in one place. So it's always sending those calls out around to the other side. During setup, when you actually install the system automatically authors a connection keychain registry that says to connect to this distro, you need this username, this password, here's the location to make that call against. And then all the call structures are abstracted. So I want to get data from the studio system. I'm going to make a call that says like, hey, ask the studio for a list of users. And it's going to figure out where the hell the studio system is and apply the correct username and password, the correct if it's HTTP, hope not, or HTTPS, assuming we have certs type of a thing. That registry is then, every time a new site is told to be turned on in our CIS, which I'll go to. So this is kind of the center of the universe, if you will. So there is a central point of some form. This is where we store our logistics and things. And so I've got a Sing 100 course in here. So I'll go to my course list. I've got Sing 100. And so we can dig into, I don't have any offerings of Sing 100, but we can associate the offerings of this course and the sections to that. And those are field collections, which then have certain data fields associated with them. So you can see in the field collections here, we'll go to a section, some managed fields so you can see it at a glance. Right? So then in this section, this is the section that relates to that point in time in the history of the world, which is usually a string. Most universities have them, but it could be anything, right? I mean, it's like fall 2015 instructor A or whatever. That's something you can cobble together that'll be unique. And so then we attach these different things to that are kind of our, this is the part of the experience that we need to pass around to ensure cohesiveness. And so one of those fields is an entity reference to services in use. So this site has entities associated with, here's this service and what it's named. So then the section says, oh, I'm using these services. And then when that section is detected, so this is, I'm in, courses.elmsln.local/sing100, so I'm in the Singularity 100 course. When I click my snowflake, it's made that call for that section field collection via REST and said, hey, what services is this section using? So section A students, it's making this call, and then this might only have 2 items in it. But section B, it might have different items. Section C, it might have custom other stuff that we throw in here, which we do for some courses, because we'll have a course that points to some wonky rubric tool that someone else built, but that faculty member uses it. Cool. If that's what you like using and it fits your workflow, we're going to streamline the way people get there and make it easier for them to get around this experience, but we're not going to force you into our one solution for rubrics or whatever. So it's kind of that the CIS is kind of at the center, is helping keep the experience stitched together. It's also something, we're not doing this, but we have prototyped it before, of using LTI, which is Learning Tools Interoperability. It's basically a Twitter OAuth handshake. And so what we do is hit our CIS with that Twitter OAuth type of a connection, which says like, a faculty member is asking for, this course to be created, right? It gives us enough data to basically make a decision about whether that course exists for that semester. It's basically sending like, this is a student, and this is their name, and this is their roles, and that type of data, right? That can then ping our CIS, which has all that data to match, and if it finds a match on it, go, oh, you actually mean you want to go to the course engine, so that it becomes kind of a LTI spider, so that a student hits that section, hits the CIS as a central point, which is something we can map to as a single item, and then spider that call out to all the different services that specific section would need access to. We're not doing that. We use a backend API, and then they ask and say, hey, what are the students for this course? And we put them in there. But it's another way we can go about doing that. Did that answer? No, he doesn't count.
There seems a lot of, it's kind of scary to be able to have so much liberty in the system. Is there a call you get consistently every week saying, man, this feature needs to be updated to have more liberty, but you feel kind of like, I wish I had forced this into kind of a specific use case so I don't get these calls every week?
No. I mean, so if we keep the scope small enough of what the tool does, then it provides less deviation within that tool set. So we will get asked for example, the one screenshot I showed. Go to it. Can't guarantee connection to PSU from here. We did take our content engine, and a faculty member said, hey, oh, okay, there we go. Said, hey, I want a design quote of the day. This is a randomly generated view that caches itself every 6 hours or whatever, and pulls from a list of random nodes that he manages and says, all right, these are the quotes of the day, and then it cycles through and puts it there. That was his big change that we would do, right? So what we do is then take that, build on top of the content engine, right? So everything else about the content's the same. It's just you go through a book, you can click through. I can jump to Big Idea 4, right? And I've got this breadcrumbing effect. I can step through it this way, right? None of this This all was fine to him, but he needed that random quote of the day thing, right? So we build a random quote of the day, make it the home page, and then package it up as a feature. Now we can turn on the random quote of the day functionality for anyone. So that's kind of more the way we've been doing it, was we try to align it both with the organizational structure. So compliance, for example, is something still really under development. You'll see ANA 121 only uses a content outline, studio space, and our dinosaur icon, right? So this is a different network and a different snowflake pattern than the other one. Our compliance system, which is still heavily under development, compliance is a process that's behind the scenes, right? I need, as an instructional designer, faculty member, I'm supposed to verify that this image I got, I didn't just steal from somewhere and I put wherever, right? What happens in most content production workflows is, hey, put in the copyright info and do it right this second or it's not going to go on the web. That doesn't actually match what happens when I'm running ahead of the train, which is what a lot of faculty do, it's called, is I'm a week ahead in production of materials. Right? So we have a system dedicated to compliance so that the idea would be they save their page and we go, oh, there was an image in here, or it uses a go show token thing in question. I keep mentioning token thing, but they're using an image that we don't have copyright info for, create a record that, hey, we need to actually go and get copyright info for that. We need to ask them about it, right? That conversation can happen in a very dedicated space. We had what was happening prior to that, because we were getting into that phone call type of issue, is we have our media system, our older one, and it had compliance stuff built into it for accessibility. Well, then what's the next? Well, are we going to validate the accessibility of the content? Or are we going to build accessibility tools into the content? Or are we going to, right? Because those use cases weren't abstract enough. So then we build a system around the process of compliance and remove it from those other systems. So it has, the early days you get a lot of like, what the hell, right? Type of phone call type stuff. But for example, our studio tool is also, we kind of set up the studio, and I can't show a live studio for privacy reasons. But so imagine like Flickr and images show up and you click them and you can comment. We've kind of designed the studio to be more of a starting point of, it's just a dumping ground for images and people can have a conversation around them. And then if you want customization on top of that, that's where we talk and we build in those features. But like it's like intentional fragmentation. Like we're still enough down one path where we go, this is still an image submission tool and it's still got this base distribution. All of them are distributions, so we can build on top of that and leverage that. But we can still fragment in these little ways because they're each different Drupal sites.
I thought I saw Moodle on one of your slides. Are you guys leveraging Moodle for any of the course authoring or?
No, sorry, that was supposed to be that we would get data from whatever your legacy source of the roster kind of a thing. Sorry, that was kind of in this is a legacy single point that we get it from. A lot of people, their LMS is the source, and then they branch out from there kind of a thing, so that was why I put it there.
Like any SCORM-based or AICC-based content?
There's SCO node, SCO_node, which I've played around with a little bit. It doesn't do the tracking statements or whatever. There is something that's emitted, I don't understand it, from SCORM so that you could write to a gradebook. We don't handle that because that module doesn't. I believe SCO node is in there. It's not a... SCORM is such an obnoxious piece of crap. I mean, really. It's one of those things that every Drupal LMS, because there's a lot of them, I don't want to say I'm the only one doing something in this space, every one of them that says that they support it, it's usually, hey, go host your file on SCORM Cloud, and then embed it in. Yeah?
Are you all doing course capture stuff in the classroom, like Echo 360 or anything like that up at Penn?
We are, but not integrated with this stuff. I believe we're using Echo.
Going in some direction of integrating that like course capture stuff into this?
I mean, that would make sense in the media system, most likely. We'd definitely be open to it. Another reason for the kind of fragmented design pattern is everything is embeddable in everything. So we use these things called remixables, and hacks eventually will just auto-generate these. But so this page, if I wanted to just embed the teaser of this page somewhere else, I could copy and paste this in any other system and it'll know how to interpret it. So using that idea, that, the Echo 360 thing might make sense in like our interactive system. And so the interactive system have a list of whatever, right? So in this case, I made a timeline. I made this goofy timeline really fast. Where is it? Elms history. And so we leverage the timeline library, right? When's timeline.js going to be updated to D8? I have no frigging clue, but I still want to innovate and do cool stuff. So I click my remixable button. Here's all the ways that I can embed this. Well, for this, I probably just need an iframe, to be perfectly honest. It's a pretty complex, goofy thing. And so, dropped out of Sing 100 there. I got to go back. Go back to Sing 100. Let's edit this page. See, we have our tabs off in that thing. We're trying to get away from the WYSIWYG entirely, but this is our baby step there. All right, so I've got that code, so that might be Echo 360 integrated into the media system, which then emits these codes. And now when I go down through my content, I've got that dude right there, right? The mobile responsive timeline, right? Because that project is, and it looks like it's there because you take the borders off of frames and magically they're there. You do that. So I'm running up against the end of time, but thank you all for attending. Please star our Git repo, or I'm at BTOPro on Twitter, or there's snowflakes up here if anyone wants any, but thank you all.